appreciate it. Okay. I didn't get that part, but I figured I must have
I'll
said
tell you
something.
that after.
It's all right. I can do that. L'chaim, l'chaim. Okay, we finished this section on page 112 or base, depending on what you're looking at. 112. 112, okay? You are looking at a copy of Basi L'Gani Tafshin Yud from the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maamer, Tafshin Yud. Okay? That's why the pages, my page will say base, because I'm looking at it from Sefer Basi L'Gani, which we talked about. Okay. So the last thing we saw was the Rebbe explaining the difference between Eilam Atzilus, the world of Atzilus, and Bria Yetzir Asiyah, the three worlds of creation, form, and action. Right? And what was the difference? Well, on what level of light is there a difference between those four worlds? One word answer. It's not the end. What level of light is it that is different in those four worlds? A one-word answer.
Revelation?
That's not light.
No.
Light means what? Mamale. Thank you very much. Light that's mamale or mimale. This is what we're learning. We have to know this, and that means you're not reviewing, and that means you're not going to know it. And so, I don't know. So Mashiach's still coming, but you can bring him faster. Whoa, this is heavy. Fast days. I don't know why they call them fast. They tend to go pretty slowly. Yeah, please.
You want the green or the blue one?
Or haseve. This is what we're learning. If we don't know this, then we don't know anything that we've learned. Right? Or mamale. Mamale means what? Fills. Seve means surrounds. Right? What have we been learning about? Well, we want to learn about Or Seve. That's really what we're interested in learning about. Why? Because the Rebbe quoted the Alter Rebbe saying that Kariskafia Sitra Achri Stalakikra Dekucha Brichu B'chul Almin. When you subdue the Sitra Achra, the level of light that exists in all the worlds equally goes out, and that level of light is called Or HaSevev Kol Almin. And we talked about that in terms of powers of the soul, and we were told by Izzy on Tuesday that the two examples of Or Sevev and powers of the soul are Ratzon and Tainug, will and pleasure, which are not centered in any particular part of the body. They express themselves equally in all parts of the body. You can get pleasure from putting your feet in a cold river when you're hiking in the mountains, and you can get pleasure from learning a Maamer Chassidus. So your brain gets pleasure and your feet get pleasure. Whereas the power of movement, which is a mashal for Or Mamale, godly light that fills the world, so just like the neshama fills you, the God fills the world. The powers of the neshama that are clothed in different kalim, different limbs of the body. Sight is clothed in the eyes, hearing is clothed in the ears, speech is clothed in the mouth, etc. Right? Okay, we remember all that?
Yes.
We really remember all that. All right? This is God, right? This is stuff you don't forget. You want to remember or not American history, that's okay. You can forget it or remember it depending on whatever happens in your life. You can't forget when you learn about God. You have to remember it, and it has to be in your head. It has to stay there. How do you remember it? You review it. That's the only way to remember things. All right, so you just have to find some time to go over the Maamer, but I did give out an English translation of the first chapter. There, I can make more, or you can make more if you well, actually you don't have access to a copy machine as easily. But you do, go on your phone into Chabad.org, go into teachings and writings, I think it's called, and just ask for Basi L'Gani, Tafshin 5710, not 11, 10. 5710 English, and you'll get the whole Maamer in English. You can do it with your phone, and you guys know how to do this. I don't know how to do this stuff, right? Okay. But I did it on the computer. I made some copies of what we're going to look at when we finish the first chapter. I was very proud of myself. And then I said, you know what? Maybe we need some new copies of the Maamer, and I made an extra 2. And there you go. 2 people showed up, and God is great. Okay? Mamale Sevev, 2 different types of light. What's the difference between them in terms of the creation of the worlds? Mamale is a level of light that is different in all the worlds. More revelation, more quantity, and more quality of light in the higher worlds. Less quantity and less quality of light in the lower worlds. That's called tzimtzum, constriction, concealment. Okay? So Mamale changes, so to speak, that relative to the world that it's being revealed in. Right? So we used a mashal Tuesday. Had a mashal on Tuesday about the kalim of the worlds and how those kalim reveal light, right? The vessels of the world. And we have more props here. This is fantastic. Look at this. We have a prop for every world except Atzilus. Okay. Here's Eilam Abriya. That's soda bottle, right? The kli is absolutely clear and lets you see exactly what's in it. In Eilam Abriya, when you look at an angel, what do you see? You see the godliness vitalizing that angel. The angel doesn't in any way, shape, or form express an idea that he is at all separate from God. He reveals completely that his only reason for existing is because God gives him his existence. You know exactly what's in that bottle. It's not hiding it, right? That bottle, that's Eilam HaYetzirah, that hydrated bottle over there, right? You can see what's in it. It's not hiding what's in it. The blue one.
Oh yeah.
It says hydrated on it, right? Okay, that blue bottle was our mashal for Eilam HaYetzirah. What? It's not concealing what's in it, but the kli has a little bit of its own. And what the word we use is yeshus, its own sense of being, right? So it might say, aren't I a nice blue? It might, if it could talk, right? It would say, drink me and be hydrated. Well, that's actually what it does say, right? Okay, so that bottle has a little bit more yeshus, a little bit less bittul, but in no way, shape, or form does it hide the liquid in it. What color is the liquid in it? What is the liquid in it? Well, okay, it looks like water to me, and that's what we assume it is, but it could be Sprite, right? I mean, we wouldn't really know, right? This one, if you give it a shake, you'll know in a minute whether it's water or soda water, right? Right now, you can't tell. It sort of looks like water because there's no bubbles anywhere. But are there bubbles in there? No.
One at a time. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, there are. Okay, I can't see. So there you go. So there's soda in there. Why? Because the kli doesn't hide in any way, shape, or form what's in it. Amnon's green bottle there. Amnon is always our prop man.
Prop master.
Right? Prop master. Right? Amnon's green bottle. Anything in it? I don't know. Sure can't tell. And even if I were to shake it and know something's in it, I wouldn't know what it is. Is it coffee? Is it tea? Is it water? Is it orange juice? It's Tropicana. He's got a stash of Tropicana upstairs. He's got a fridge upstairs that no one knows about. He's got cartons and cartons of Tropicana. Right? Okay. What's in there? I don't know. What's that a mushal for? Eilam Hazeh. Look around at Eilam Hazeh. Do you see the godliness that's giving energy and existence to everything in this room? No. Is godliness giving energy and existence to everything in this room? Absolutely. Could anything in this room exist without that godly energy? Absolutely not. Is that visible? No. Not to our physical eyes. It's visible to the eyes of our intellect, but not the eyes of our head. The ones that are embedded in our head. Those physical eyes don't see it. We can appreciate the existence of it. That's what we're talking about, right? 3 different levels of light, 3 different levels of worlds. The worlds are defined by the nature of the revelation or lack thereof of light in those worlds. That's the nature of the world. That's what defines the world. That's the character of the world. The character of the world is dependent completely and totally on the level of godly revelation in that world. And what does that depend on? The kelim, the vessels, which is the stuff that exists in those worlds. Right? That's mamale. Different levels of reality, just like in you. Intellect is a much more sophisticated power than movement. Therefore, the kli for intellect is a very, very sophisticated kli that is very well protected up there so that it doesn't get smashed around. Because if it does, it's not good. Right? Whereas this thing, it can be impressive, right? Okay, but nothing happened. Stings a little for 15 seconds. Do that to your brain. You'll walk around like Muhammad Ali for the rest of your life. Drooling. Right? Different kelim, different levels. What's that a mushal for? Mamale. Now don't forget that. You can't forget that. When you learn something, if you don't give yourself the opportunity or the possibility of forgetting it, you won't. If it's just something that can go in and out, so then it'll go in and out. Right? You have to have a brain of concrete, not a brain of mush. What's the difference? Brains of concrete, it might be hard to make an impression on concrete, but once you make the impression, it's there forever. Mush, you put the spike in the mush, it comes out the other side, it's as if it was never there. Your brain can't be mush. It goes in, comes out, never there. Right? Can't do that. It might be harder to get it in. Right, it might be harder to get it in, but once it's there, it makes a mark forever. It's not that crack you made in the concrete is there. It's not going anywhere. Took some work to make that crack in the concrete. That's true. Right? The mush, then out it comes the other side and nothing happened and it just closes around it as if nothing was ever there. That can be with all sorts of stuff we learn. Yesterday's news, tomorrow's news is different, right? God can't leave. He's got to get in there and stay. Thank you. No, I just wasn't sure if this was it. This might have been used to clean the whiteboard. I don't know. Okay. What was our Moshe for Elam Atzilus? Where the Kli itself is godliness? An ice cup. Beautiful. An ice cup. What's ice? H2O. What's the water in the cup? H2O. It's all the same. But there's H2O in a solid form. There's H. That was our mashal for Elam Atzilus. What's Elam Atzilus? The light, godly light. The Kli, godly Kli. What are those kelim called? 10 spheros. Elam Atzilus is a godly world, not a created world. The other 3 worlds are created. Now, all of this was to help us understand Or Mamale. Everything we just talked about and reviewed. Or Mamale. Why are we trying to understand Or Mamale? Because we can't really understand Or Sevev if we don't understand Or Mamale. Right? If we don't understand the reality of differentiated light that fills and that brings into creation and vitalizes the different worlds, right? So then we can't understand Sevev, because Sevev is not that. Okay? What does Sevev not do? What's the word that's a very important word to know and to just make part of your vocabulary? In Hebrew, hit, love, shoot. What's hit, love, shoot? His love, shoes. How do you spell that? H-I-S. Oh, Heat, love, shoot. What's the root? Lavash. What does lavash mean? To wear. Right? Heat, love, shoot is to be clothed in. Hislavshus. The light is clothed in the vessel. And it brings the vessel into existence and continues to vitalize it. That's different than the neshama. We talked about that, right? The neshama is clothed in the body, but it doesn't give the body existence. The neshama is not responsible for the fact that your body exists. The neshama gives your body vitality. And when the neshama leaves, there's no vitality in the body. That doesn't mean the body doesn't exist. We bury it. There's still eyes, there's still ears, there's still mouth, there's still hands. They just don't see, hear, speak. Why? Because the or of the neshama, the light of the neshama, which were those powers of intellect, speech, sight, those powers are no longer clothed in the body. And therefore the body doesn't do those things. A lavush is a means of expression. How does the soul express itself down here? It thinks, speaks, and does. Those are the only things we do, consciously. We're doing one of those things, or all of them. Sometimes we speak without thinking. That's dangerous. You can't think without speaking, right? Sometimes we think and we're less careful than we should be because we don't have the proper filters. Okay. Sometimes we can think about something, we can think it's a very, very good idea to do, and we can talk about it, but for whatever reason, we can't bring it down into action. We just don't actually do it. Right? Some people in this room might be that way relative to exercise. We all know it's a good idea. How many of us do it? Separate question.
Is Atzilus already our Saiviv, or is it still our?
No, Mamale.
So all four worlds are.
All four worlds are Mamale. It's a good question, but the answer is very, very, very clear.
So why does it?
Atzilus is Mamale, but it has Kalim. What are those Kalim? Spheres. So to speak, using the word very loosely, finite expressions of godliness. Not finite like this cup is finite, but finite to the extent that there's something called chesed and there's something called gvura, and those are two different states of reality. And Atzilus, they're incorporated one in each other and they're in a state of absolute unity. Okay, that's true, but they're still two completely different states of reality. Godly reality. Right? And what are those Kalim and Atzilus, those spheres? What do they do? Or what did we say about Atzilus? Gilui Helam, the revelation of what's hidden. In an infinite state, what don't you see? Distinction. B'diuk. Right? Is it there? It's there. The light out here, right? How many times are we going to go through this? I'm so sick and tired of hearing myself say this. I feel so bad, like I'm boring people, but we just have to keep saying it over and over. Right? Out here, the light is colorless. When it hits Amnon's books, what would he do without Amnon's books? He wouldn't understand anything. When it hits Amnon's book, what happens? A specific color is revealed, a specific aspect of light, which is the ability of light to be revealed as pink, is revealed, and all the other infinite possibilities of light's revelation is concealed. That's what happens when the light hits that book. The light, though, very important now that we know that word, the light is not meluvash in this. It's the difference between physical light and godly light. The light's not clothed in this, it's reflected off it. Right? The light that's coming from out there is actually light that's, so to speak, absorbed by this. What's that? Every other aspect of light. Right? The only thing that's not absorbed is the pink of it. And that reflects back to your eye, and you see pink. And if this were yellow, you'd see yellow. The light is infinitely flexible. The Kli defines how the light's revealed. That's how Kalim work. So on one hand, Kalim reveal light. On the other hand, they hide light. They reveal an external aspect of the light, but they hide the essential existence of the light. Because what? The essential existence, the essential nature of the light. Because the essential nature of the light is that it's infinite. That's hidden by the Kli. That's what Kalim do. They hide infinite reality and reveal finite reality. Well, that's the difference between Mamale and Sevev. What's Sevev? Sevev is the light itself that's too powerful to be clothed in a Kli. What doesn't happen? Now in Chassidus, I'm going to use the English words 20 times. I'll use the Hebrew word once, but we have to know that word. What doesn't happen with Or Sevev? Hislavshus. That doesn't happen. It's not clothed in anything. It's too powerful to be clothed in a Kli. If infinite reality encounters finite reality, one of two things happens. The finite reality conceals the infinite reality, or the infinite reality nullifies the existence of the finite reality. But they can't exist in a revealed way together. Yet. Mashiach. That's what'll happen. Right? We know, I mean, we've talked about this 20 times, right? We know there's infinite reality down here. How many numbers between 1 and 1.1? An infinite amount of numbers. How many points in space between these two finite points in space? An infinite amount of points in space. Are we getting tired of hearing that? But I better say it 25 times, because every time I ask a question and I'm supposed to get an answer, I don't get an answer. So I'm going to say it again and again and bore you guys to death. And you say, stop, we know it. Okay, Beseder, I can stop now. My wife is still saying the same things to me. I haven't figured it out. It's 43 years, right? Did you figure out what she wants from you yet? We don't want to get too. Okay. Well, it's on here now, so don't answer. Don't answer.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So light hasoved doesn't change then, right? It's like the constant.
Beautiful. I'm glad you showed up. Yes, Sovev doesn't change. Mamale, so to speak, changes by virtue of the Kli revealing it. Right? So your vessel, your soul is an amorphous, godly reality. Okay. What does this do? Forces, so to speak, your soul to express itself in one particular way, sight. Right? Is the only aspect of your soul that is revealed by this thing that's conveniently embedded a little bit off the face, right, and covered by these little lids that will close quickly if anything starts coming its way, right? Except, of course, the light that's smashing into it 186,000 miles per second. It doesn't seem to be bothered by that. I don't know why. Right? Okay. This thing does one thing and one thing only. It sees. Therefore, what does it do? It reveals the power of sight that exists in the world. Because eyes don't see. Souls see. But this is the Kli that allows your soul to see physical reality when your soul is clothed in your body down here in this world. When your soul leaves this world, not yours, someone else's, when it leaves this world and goes up to Olam Yitzira, Gan Eden Tachton, Olam Abriya, Gan Eden Elyon, we talked about it, right? When it goes up to those places, it sees, but it doesn't see physical reality, it sees godly reality, which evidently is unbelievably pleasurable, which we also talked about. Okay. So what doesn't it need? An eye. Well, it doesn't need a physical eye, that's for sure. Are there metaphysical eyes up there? I don't know. I don't know how that works. Does God have a hand? Yes. Is it a physical hand? Don't be silly. When the Torah says Yad Hashem, what, it's not telling the truth. He doesn't have a hand. The only reason you have a hand is because he has a hand. That's not, what do they call it? Anthropomorphic. It's not anthropomorphic. I mean, there's that aspect to it. But Be'etzem, there's a Rashi on Chumash. Hashem said, I'll lift up my hand to take an oath. And Rashi writes, Yad Mamish, his hand really. What means hand really? God has a hand? Of course God has a hand. That's the only reason you can have a hand. How do hands come into existence? Because in godliness there must be something called a hand. What does it look like? Sure, it doesn't look like this. That's for sure. What does it look like? I don't know. It's an aspect of godly revelation, godly energy. No idea what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything. So we say God has Chochmah and Bina and Chesed and Gvura, all sorts of different things that you also have. Well, the reason you have them is because he has them. It's not the other way around. Right? Don't make God in your image. You were made in his image. He doesn't exist because you do. You exist because he does. Some people sort of think they created God by coming to the realization that he exists. Oh, God must love me because I created him, because if it weren't for me understanding that he exists, what would he be doing? I mean, it's very good that we understand that he exists, and he's very happy about that. But we didn't bring him into existence. He exists whether we know it or not. Right? Whether we exist is an interesting question. The only parak in Tanya, the whole book, all the 53 chapters of Tanya and Shayud v'emuna, and Igeres Tshuva, Igeres Kodesh, and Kuntras Achron. The whole book, one chapter ends with a question. And the question is, how can the world exist? Not does God exist, that's obvious. How does the world exist? How does that happen? That's the real question. God? Well, of course he exists. Okay? Seivev Mamale. Why did we learn about Mamale? Because we want to learn about Seivev, and I can't possibly, since you and I live down here in finite reality, so I can't possibly understand what infinite is until I understand what finite is. And I can't describe infinite in any other way other than telling you that it's infinite. It's not finite. What is it? I don't know, but I know what it isn't. If I lived in infinite reality, I would know what infinite reality is. And what would I not know? Finite reality. Couldn't explain it. I just say it's not infinite. However you would say that. Yeah? Okay. So we got down to... Well, I tell you what, let's read. I think we have exactly the same page, right? I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines down on page 112. In the middle of the line is the word umnum, however, and there's a comma before it, so there's a pretty big space before it. It shouldn't be hard to find. We just wanted to hang out with umnum. This is Amnam, not Amnon, but okay, Beseder. It's close enough, and we love Amnon enough that we'll see him in that too. Right? Amnam, which means however. Kol zeh, everything we've said in the last 20 lines. Hu ba'or Shabbat is relative to the light that comes, lahachiyes esa'ilamis, to give vitality to the worlds, bebechim, and a quality of mimale kol almin, a light that fills the world. Aval, but, Ba'or shehu l'mayla mishayches el-eilamis, the light that is beyond relevance to the worlds, infinite light. V'hu, and what is that light? Hu bechinas or ha-seivev kol almin. That's what that acronym is. Shaba bebechinas, it comes in a quality of seivev umakif l'eilamis. It surrounds and encompasses the world. Again, Ratzon is a very good mushal for that. What you do is enveloped in your will, right? It exists within the bubble of your will. Why am I moving my chair? Because I want to, right? Okay. So the moving of the chair, if you define what I'm doing, you'll define what I'm doing in terms of the mamale of it. I'm moving a chair. I'm moving. I'm using the power of movement that I have in my body to move the chair. Okay. That's what's happening in revealed reality. But what's the light in what context is that reality existing? My Ratzon. I want to move the chairs. Why? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I want to explain an idea in Chassidus, the difference between Ratzon and movement. So I'm moving the chair. Because I don't really want to move the chair. I'm perfectly happy with it where it is. But, okay, I'll show you that's mamale, encompassed by the Ratzon. Now, the Ratzon is like an onion. There's different layers of the Ratzon. There's the inner Ratzon mamish, and then there's the external Ratzon. All right? Talked about this. We'll go through it very, very quickly, just so we appreciate it. Right? I picked up the phone in my house. Why did I pick up the phone? Did I want to pick up the phone? Of course I wanted to pick up the phone, but I didn't really want to pick up the phone. What did I really want to do?
Call someone.
Make a phone call, right? But in order to make a phone call, I have to pick up the phone. Well, I guess I could say Siri call, but okay, we're not going to go there, right? My hello Google or whatever it is just never works, right? Okay? So I pick up the phone. I make the call. I'm calling a cab. Do I want the cab? Well, I don't really want the cab. I just want to get to where the cab's going to take me. Okay, so I want to get to the airport. Okay, do I want to get to the airport? No one wants to be in an airport. I mean, there's, as soon as you get to the airport, your whole purpose is to get out of the airport, right? Okay, but I do want to be in the airport because I picked up the phone to call the cab to get to the airport. But do I want to be in the airport? No, I really want to be on the plane. Do I want to be on the plane? Well, to be perfectly honest, there are certain times in your life that being on a plane is very nice because your phone can't ring. right? So it's a really nice place to be because you're just there. You sit and learn without any distractions on the plane. Nothing's going to bother you, which is very nice about planes, but okay. But you don't really want to be in the plane. You want to get to where the plane is taking you. So you want to get to New York. Okay, so you want to be in New York? Well, yeah, not really. You want to get to the business meeting that you have in New York, right? Okay, you want to be in the business meeting? No. Why are you in the business meeting?
You want the money from a business.
You want to make $1 million that you're going to make as a result of this business deal. Okay, you want the $1 million? No. You want the stuff that $1 million allows you to do, right? Which means you want to give a lot of tzedakah. Because you have $1 million now, you can give a lot of tzedakah, which you've been waiting to do your whole life. You've always wanted to be one of those guys who writes the check as opposed to the guy asking for the check. Okay, and you're very excited now. You can write a big check for tzedakah. You want to give tzedakah? Well, yes, because that's what God said. But why do you want to give tzedakah? Because g'day l'tzedakah shemakareves is a geula. Tzedakah is great because it brings the geula closer. So what you really want to do is you want to bring Mashiach, and that's why you want to give the tzedakah. So why'd you pick up the phone in your house?
Give charity.
The panemius of it all was to bring Mashiach. That was the panemius ratzon of everything you did. Right? There's all these other layers of ratzon that are real. The only reason you're getting into the cab is because you want to. The only reason you're driving to the airport is because you want to. The only reason you're getting on the plane is because you want to. The only reason you're going to the meeting is because you want to. But there's a more, you can call it more all-encompassing, but we'd also call it, inner more ratzon, desire. So really, you sort of work from the inside out when it comes to the onion. What's the all-encompassing desire in which everything you're doing by which everything you're doing is encompassed? You want Mashiach to come. So you picked up the phone and you got in the cab and you got in the plane and you went into New York and you went to the meeting and you then you gave stock. And you whatever happens next. Okay, and that's how Ratzon works. So there's a Ratzon on every particular level, and there's a more general Ratzon. So too when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a general Ratzon for 4 worlds. Why? I don't know. He wanted 4 worlds. Right? Okay. And each world has its own Ratzon. What's that in Chassidus? A Kesser. What's the Kesser of each world? The crown, that which is beyond the revealed reality, the conscious reality, so to speak, which happens in the head. What's on top of the head? The keter, the crown. Okay, what's Ratzon and Tainug are 2 aspects of that crown. Okay, so every world has its own Ratzon. Guy builds a 4-story building. He has a general desire for the building, but he also knows what he wants the 4th floor to look like, the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, the 1st floor. They each have their own particular Ratzon. Okay. The Ratzon Kloli for the whole building, the general Ratzon for the whole building. Also, such a Ratzon. What's that called in Chassidus? I'm going to throw out the word because you're going to run into it. You're going to run into it at some point. And so you'll say, oh, I don't remember that. That's called Machshava Kaduma Da'ak. That's called, whenever you see that, and you've heard about it, someone's thrown it out at it for bringing. The primordial thought of Adam Kadmon. What is that? My goodness, that sounds confusing. Not confusing at all. What is that? That is the general desire of God on God's part for the 4 worlds.
Can you repeat
the general Ratzon of all 4 worlds. That's called Machshava Kaduma Da'ak. You'll run into it one day, okay? But we're not there, so I wanted it out there, so if you run into it, just go, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to remember sort of what that means. Right? Hare Meir b'chol elam is b'shava. That light shines in all of the worlds equally. V'zeu, and this is b'chul almin, and this is what it means. Remember, it said 20 lines ago. The Rebbe quoted the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe said, Kadiskafia sitra achro, when you subdue the sitra achro, and you subdue your Yetzer Hara, istalek yikudakucha brichu b'chul almin, it goes out the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in all the worlds, but that's not the proper translation. It goes out the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that exists in all of the worlds equally. B'chul almin is the adjective describing the light. Which light? The equal light. Save it. Equal. Ratzon. You can expend as much ratzon trying to understand an idea in Chassidus, or push your car the last block to the gas station when you ran out of gas a block away. That is an extremely powerful exertion of ratzon. Every step, you're just saying, another step, not right? Pretty serious expression of ratzon. Not so sophisticated, but it's pretty real. You just have to keep willing yourself to take another step. So too, you sit down in front of a Maamer Chassidus, sit down in front of a page of Gemara, you're going to have to will yourself to understand that. It might be very hard, right? What does it mean? You read it, you didn't get it, okay, read it again. Read before what you didn't understand, what was happening before. Read a little further. Maybe if I read a little further, I'll figure out in context what I just said in this line, because I didn't get this line. Okay, but remember to go back to the line. Don't keep going further, right? And if you really, really, really want to understand that, you will. If you don't really, really, really want to understand it, you won't. But if you really do, you will. Generally, people get what they want. Generally. It might be they want Coca-Cola at 2 a.m. They'll get it.
Is Ratzon will?
Will. They'll get it. What do they have to do? They might have to get up, get dressed, and go to Paz. But they'll get their Coca-Cola. Well, now you don't. You have your little Taiva machine down there, right? Okay. So the Taiva machine is out of Coke. You go to the Taiva machine, and there's no Coke in the Taiva machine. You'll get it. No problem. You went to the Taiva machine in your pajamas, because you don't have to worry about that. But the Houthis woke you up, so you figure, oh, well, I'll have some Coke. Once they already woke me up, I'll have some Coke. Okay. Don't have any. So then you walk to the Paz. I mean, now I hate to say it, but probably half the people in the world would walk to Paz in their pajamas also. But I grew up in an age when people had a little bit of class and didn't walk outside in pajamas. So what can I say? Us dinosaurs are sort of, have a hard time relating to people walking around in real life wearing what basically looks like pajamas. So it's just strange. I mean, if you play basketball, I understand that's what you're supposed to wear, but on the court, but I don't think that's what he wears when he goes home. I think he puts on clothes before he leaves the arena, doesn't he? The guy wearing the underpants and the undershirt, putting the ball in the hoop, doesn't he put on some real clothes when he leaves the place? I think he does. I think he only does that I assume he does. Probably puts on a few gold chains and, other stuff also. Might as well waste all the money he's making. I doubt that, but who knows? You never know. Okay. So if he really wants that Coke, he'll get it. He'll get it. We'll figure it out. And everybody in this room, if you really, everything, ultimately it's always dependent on the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But basically, the way the world works, if all you want is to make sure that you're financially comfortable and don't have to worry about finances, I trust everybody in this room to do that which is necessary to make that happen in your life, and you'll probably have no financial worries.
Amen.
If that's all you care about, no problem. Just about everybody in the Western world that we live in who like you, not someone who grew up with, severe disadvantages. But even they, if they want, they can do it. But it's a lot harder. All right? You can figure out how to make a living, and to the extent that, you'll be okay. Rich, not dafka, but, you'll be fine. All right? If that's what you want, no problem. Most people can figure out how to do that. Not so hard. How many millionaires in America? There's like millions of them. All right? Okay. You want to be someone who's sensitive to God? That's what you want? You can do that, no problem. Just do the work necessary, just like you have to do the work necessary to make the money to figure out how to be financially solvent. You want God in your life? Okay, do the work. You want it enough, it'll happen. You don't want it enough, so what happens? Like everything else, right? I'd like to be rich. You want to do anything about it? No. Okay. I'll tell you a quick story, and it's not a transgressing. Is that not what's it called when you go off topic? It's not transgressing. Digressing. Thank you. Not transgressing. We don't want to transgress, but digress. We don't want to digress either. But I seem to have a habit of it. My older brother, who's a Lubavitcher Rabbi here in Yerushalayim. I look like him. He's 6 years older, so I look like him. He doesn't look like me. Actually, I look less decrepit than him. He looks like I will in 5 or 6 years. So I always know what's coming. I buy the cane early. So I actually got him a cane and a thing of prunes for his 50th birthday. That was my birthday present for him. He doesn't use the cane. Probably ate the prunes, but he doesn't use the cane. So he was a very, very good tennis player when he was a kid. And he was a lefty, which also helped. He was really good. His doubles partner played Wimbledon. Like, he was really good, right? And we were in Los Angeles visiting my uncle, and my parents decided that, you know what, let's go take him to like one of these really good teachers for half an hour. It was $25 for a half an hour lesson. That was like, wow, that's a lot of money. $1 of gas was, I mean, a gallon of gas was 45 cents. So that was like a lot of money for half an hour. And the coach's name was Pancho Segura. Right? I don't know if you know anything about tennis, but at that age, my brother's exactly the same age as another guy who became the #1 tennis player in the world under his guidance. That guy's name was Jimmy Connors, who you might have heard of. Right? Okay. Izzy has. He was the best tennis player in the world, 35, 40 years ago, whatever. Right? Okay. So Jimmy Connors was a 16-year-old kid then. And my brother was a 16-year-old kid then. And my brother spent half an hour on the court with Pancho Segura. And I remember I was there, I was watching, and I learned a very important lesson from that I can tell you. Right? They were playing. At one point, Pancho Segura hit a shot, went up to the net. My brother hit a backhand, passed him down the line with a backhand. Pancho Segura looked like this. He looked over at my parents. I was sitting next to my parents. Said, no 15-year-old ever did that to me. And they played. And he was giving him pointers. At the end of the lesson, he said, you've got it. Do you want to be the best tennis player in the world? So my brother said, he's 15, 16 years old. I said, yeah, sure. Do you want to give up everything else to do it? I said, no. I said, okay, go have a good time. That's it. You want to be the best tennis player in the world? You're going to have to become a moron. Because the only thing you're going to think about when you're every hour you're awake is being the best tennis player in the world. And that means, I remember I talked to my brother because at a certain point he he didn't ever quit tennis. He kept playing, as exercise, but about 18, 19, 20, he basically quit tournament tennis. I said, why? He said, well, because to get any better, I couldn't just go out on the court and play for 6-7 hours a day, which is what he used to do as a kid, and he loved it. He used to go play tennis all day. He loved it. It was fun, right? He said, I would have to sit and hit 1,000 backhands down the line in a row, and then hit 1,000 forehands, what's called cross court, to the other side of the court, right? From here to there. I have to hit 1,000 of those in a row, and I'd have to do that like 2 or 3 times a day. I didn't want to do that. It's just boring. So he quit. Because if you want to be able to hit the backhand down the line when it's match point against you for the other guy, but you know how to do that in your sleep, and you just go like that and it happens and it goes where it's supposed to go, how does it go where? You ever wonder, how do they do that? With that pressure, how do they do that? Well, the same way you do this. I mean, if you're thirsty, it might be a little pressure. If I don't get this to my mouth and I spill it all over myself, I'm going to be really thirsty, right? I did it. That's how they do that. Because they just did it so many times. They can do it in their sleep. Okay. But you have to do it. And in order to do it, what has to be? It's called ratzon. If there's no ratzon, it won't happen. And it's everything. Whatever you want, you'll get. What do you want? Whatever we want, we'll get. What do we want? God's very good. He helps us get most of the things we want. We just have to want the right stuff. And if we want a little elokus in our life, we want children who are God-fearing children, who are healthy. So, okay. And they grow up and they have children, and those children are healthy and God-fearing. So then you have to want that a lot and do those things necessary to make that happen. And when you do, it happens, Baruch Hashem. Guaranteed? Nothing's guaranteed. But in general, does it happen? Yeah, generally it happens. Most people go to medical school, end up doctors. Everyone? Not everyone. But in first year of medical school, Nate's sure going to want to be a doctor a lot because it's sure going to be hard, right? You're going to be like, oh man, am I sure I want to do this? I'm sure everybody asks that. Right? Am I sure I want to do this? Right? And you'll say, yeah, this is what I want to do. I'm willing to put up with this. Right? When my father was in medical school, it was when you were a resident, 8 on, 8 off, 16 on, 8 off, 24 on, 8 off. That's how it worked. He said by the end you were just, and that just kept going, and then every now and then you'd get a couple of days off. Why? I asked him, how could you possibly function at the end of the 24 hours? He said you couldn't. So you weren't the one doing things, you were just sort of sitting there like a zombie watching. But you were there for everything that happened in that hospital, you were there and you saw it. So you learned about it. If you're there 8 and off 8 and there, which is how it works now because the union of students decided that was too hard, so now the doctors don't know anything because they're not there. Because they're out of the hospital as much as they're in the hospital. Those guys, they just spent their whole life in the hospital. So what did they know? They knew everything going on in that hospital because they were just there the whole time. And they might even tell the senior doctor, last night somebody came in that had never come in. And they, oh yeah, well, what's and they'll tell a senior doctor, wow, I've been waiting 20 years to see that. That was it. Where is he? Where's that patient? Right? And they had to want it a lot, because if you don't want it, it'll never happen. That's Ratzon. That's how Ratzon works. You know what God wants a lot? Evidently, you. I guess he must want you a lot, because you are. Even wants me, which is also nice to think about, but my job is to get you to realize he wants you. My job is also to get me to realize he wants me, but I do that in the privacy of my own life, right? Which we all hopefully are trying to do. That's what he wants. He wants us. Why? I don't know. Shh. Don't make too much noise, because God forbid he can decide he doesn't at any moment, but he does, which is pretty good. We win. And that's called Sevev. And that's the general light that powers the world equally. Amnam. B'chdei. Lahamshich arzeh b'chul almin. In order to draw this light down in all the worlds. Hu al yedei avoda. It's through service, work. B'avodas habirurim, which we talked about. The work of birurim. Birurim means rectification. Taking reality and connecting it to its source, which rectifies it, elevates it, and illuminates it. Taking physical reality and turning it, we don't have to do anything to it, right? Where did it come from? Kadosh Baruch Hu. We just have to reconnect it to its source in godliness. Now, sometimes the way we reconnect something to its source in godliness, God says, don't have anything to do with that. Okay. How do you somehow, on some level, elevate that particular object? Don't eat it, don't touch it, don't think about it, don't have anything to do with it. Okay. He told us 365 times in the Torah that, regular, all sorts of stuff. 365 negative commandments. Okay. How do you, you don't, but basically, how do you somehow justify the existence of that little pink animal with the smug nose? Don't eat it. That's why he created it, so you won't eat it. Right? That's why it's there. There are other people who can eat it. No problem. You can't. That's why it's there. Okay. It doesn't do much else, right? A horse that does all sorts of stuff. You also can't eat him, but he does stuff that's useful. That little guy, he doesn't really do very much at all. Right? Can you have him as a pet? Which is now a thing. Like people have little mini pigs, little mini pig pets. Okay. We once on the beach in Australia where our daughter lives, and this guy's walking along the beach with a pig. So we went up to talk to him. We said, "Oh, yeah, he's great. He's like these smart. They are evidently smarter than dogs. So he listens to everything I say. Come here, the Porky, whatever his name was. Right? And the thing didn't listen to a word he said. He said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, mate. I don't know. Right? But anyway, but he was a cute little guy. guy. I mean, why is this little guy walking around? Okay, what's he all about? Okay, Beseder, he keeps this crazy Aussie happy, but he exists so you won't eat him. That's why there's such a thing. Right? That's how you can elevate him. Don't eat him. And God will take care of him. He'll do whatever he wants with him. Subduing. We saw that. Subduing the Yetzer Hara. Not listening to those subconscious voices that might want you to do things that separate you from who you really are and where God is. And transforming. Transforming that subconscious reality into a reality that is more connected to goodness. And that can happen over time. And it can happen. V'zeu, and this is what it means, kadiskafia sitra achra, when you subdue the sitra achra. Now we're back to the statement of Tanya that the Rebbe quoted. Kasher payil b'avedasa, that when a person brings about through his work, his service, liyos, to be iskafia sitra achra, to subdue the sitra achra, meaning again to subdue those subconscious desires that are not healthy. V'ishafcha, and ultimately transform those desires and transform physical reality. Minahara, from darkness, linahara, to light. Aramaic for choshech and or. Darkness and light. Right? How do you transform darkness into light? Use a physical object to express God's existence. You've elevated that object. That object is now not something that is on some existential level concealing godliness. That is now an object that is revealing godliness. Right? And it all depends on how you use it. The $20 you see on the sidewalk, or the wallet you see on the sidewalk. You reach down, pick up the wallet, and put it in your pocket. What have you done? Either you've just stolen a wallet, because you have no intention whatsoever of looking for the owner. You're just going to put it in your pocket, walk away, and then when you get home, open, not you, right, this guy, right, and open it up, see how much money is in there, and figure out how to use the credit cards before anybody stops them. Okay, that's one guy. The same guy did exactly the same action. He picked up the wallet. Why did he pick up the wallet? Because as soon as he got to his car, he opened up the wallet, looked for a name, found the phone number, called the guy and said, I just found your wallet. He did a mitzvah aseh of returning a lost object. Same actions, exactly the same. He bent down, picked it up, put it in his pocket. What was he doing? A terrible aveira or an amazing mitzvah? Depends on him, right? So was he elevating it or using it as a force of darkness? Depends on him. He can turn that wallet into a shining light of godliness by that wallet is the vehicle that allows him to do what God wants, which is return it to its owner. Or it can just be a piece of physicality. He's into the physicality of it. What's the physicality of this wallet? Hopefully there's some money in there. Some credit cards, something of use. Depends on him. Hine, when we do that, Yisrael or u'mi'achoshech dafka. Now, I'm going to translate very, very loosely. What's today? Thursday. Well, so Sunday. Sunday morning there's shiur, 7:30, without coffee. All right. If there's no shiur Sunday morning, that's because it's Yom Tif. We brought Mashiach, and it's going to be a big Yom Tif, and we don't have shiur Yom Tif morning. Maybe Rabbi Kaplan does. Okay. So the Gullus plans are Sunday morning we'll have a class, and there won't be coffee around the table, so we won't have as many props, right? Unless there's, but we'll meet here. We will finish the chapter. The rest of the chapter is going to talk about this line a lot, and this piece of paper, which I'll just put in my book and I'll give you then. This piece of paper is a little bit of our Rebbe's first Maamer, where the Rebbe explains these lines at the end of the first chapter. Okay? Because as we said, our Rebbe's Maamerim for the next 40 years, the Rebbe said a Maamer or two Basi L'Gani every year on Yud Shvat. What did the Rebbe do? He explained chapter 1 the first year, chapter 2 the second year, chapter 3 the second 20 chapters, and went back to the beginning. So we'll see that our Rebbe's first Maamer was explaining basically the chapter that we're learning, chapter 1. We'll see what the Rebbe says about this. The idea of Yisrael or Abba Min HaChoshen, which is a line that shows up a lot in Chassidus. The simple translation is the greater light is that which emerges from the dark. Okay, but that's not going to simply be relative. That since you've been hanging out in the dark, so then 100 watts looks very bright. No, there's going to be a greater light. The light qualitatively is going to be a greater light if it emerges from the dark, which is the secret of this whole world. Right? Okay, but we'll understand that even more when we see it in the Rebbe. Okay, but the next 6, 7, 8 lines of this paragraph talk about that, and then we'll see it here. Okay, that's where we're going. Have an amazing Shabbos.
Are you going to loosely translate those 5 words or no?
Yeah, I just did. The advantage of the light that emerges from the dark.
Advantage of the light.
Oh, I realized
I won't see you at 10:40. I heard you guys learning yesterday. It was so nice.
Yeah.
I happened to be, I just heard you and Noah sitting and learning. You were reading or something. It was so nice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what's going on. It's nice.
We're pretending, yeah, we're pretending.
Pretending, no. He doesn't everything, but there's all sorts of stuff that you know. Baruch Hashem. And how did it happen? A lot of hard work. You put in a lot of hard
If I
work.
compare myself to the start of the year, it's
Baruch Hashem.
Drop.
Oh, wow. We did. Look, in real life, we just saw it. Unbelievable. A living example of what we just talked about. And you did that on purpose, right?
Well, I was waiting someone to see.
Machshava
Test, right?
Oh, wait, let me. It was a test. What?
Machshava Kadmain Dak.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Just a loose